No.
We're not allowing it.
No, I don't think we can do that on this one. Just because he's still milking from this trough and having Mark Cuban come in, I don't know. Was there any breaking news in this story? I thought, what is Billy shaking his head about here? I don't know what. I don't think this is worthy of that.
Is there going to be discipline? Can we get to the discipline portion of this investigation?
Not until Pablo gets all of his clicks beforehand, because he's the only information center on this story.
No discipline. You get a 90-minute cat fight.
I asked a question off air, but I didn't get an answer, so I'll just ask on air. Can we talk about the fact that, like, Mark Cuban interrupted a very important company meeting because he was recording, I guess, like, slightly before, and he just showed up in a company meeting when they were recording this, which was kind of crazy. He's just like, look, he's like, I'm Mark Cuban. He's just like waving around and people are like, all right, Mark, like, hit the road, Jack. Like, we got business to tend to here.
I did think it was funny that right about when we were going to start the company meeting, I see Cynthia just point excitedly at a screen in New York where Mark Cuban has popped up in Pablo Torre's office. And she was just legitimately delighted to see that he was there. And I wanted to say, hey, Cynthia, wrong Cuban. Like we were about to start, and she was just excited that the Shark Tank guy was wandering around Pablo's offices too. As far as I can tell, just argue with him some more when Mark Cuban is out there pretty alone. Although I have some withering criticism of Pablo Torre here that I want to read you guys and Pablo when he's on with us later. Somebody goes after Pablo pretty hard. I haven't seen a whole lot of people going after Pablo.
I'll look forward to that. I'm at the point where I'm just ready to let this investigation play out. I mean, the Mark Cuban episodes, I argue politics often, too much, many would say. And it reminded me a lot of that. Just a refusal to capitulate, a refusal to give you an inch, a refusal to take a standard logic leap. And I was just like, all right, I got you, Mark. No one's changing your mind.
To me, that was like the most interesting part of this. It wasn't any new information, but it was essentially looking at two people who have two diametrically opposed ways of looking at a story. You have one person in Pablo who looks at the humanity, who looks at seven sources.
Can use that way, Chris. I think you're using that too strongly, and it can only be used in times when there's breaking news, not just when there's an argument on Pablo's podcast.
You can't just use that every time you want Jeremy to stop talking.
He has seven sources, human beings. He's making logical leaps from one thing to the next. And you're looking at Mark Cuban, who is unwilling to look at any fact and link it from one thing to another. He's using AI as his research tool, literally putting in like ad reads for the AI software that he uses. It's two diametrically opposed ways of looking at the world for an hour and a half of yelling at each other.
You're changing on the fly. Hit checks, metrics are gonna make them cheer. But the bombs are determined riding high. Now it's time for action. Tonight's gonna burn this barn right up. The slap shot will light the lamp so nice. Let's go for a breakaway on the chase to raise the cup. We'll be standing on our heads till we meet them at center ice. Hockey is back, Jack. Hockey is back, Jack. Hockey is back, Jack, baby, and we'll meet you at center ice.
I had not actually read this entire story criticizing Pablo Torre until right now during that hockey intro, and I just noticed that this person goes after me too. So do you guys want to hear somebody really criticize Pablo Torre? And then I will tell you afterward who it is, and you tell me whether that person was right or wrong in doing this, as Pablo Torre again does what Pablo Torre does, which is get attention for himself. And you guys say correctly. Just tell me at this point when the investigation is over. But do you know how rare it is in any time in anybody's sports journalism career for them to be the epicenter of where you have to go for the only new information there is on a story that people crave, but media partners aren't covering the way that a dissatisfied public would like a story covered? So Pablo is absolutely milking this cow. This cow is being milked even though this udder has stopped giving milk for the moment, or the milk is stuck for the moment, and it's just Mark Cuban coming around every once in a while and pinching a teat and running off. What are the teats on an udder?
I mean, you said farm machine last week.
Well,
you
didn't
stay
answer
away
my
from
question.
farms.
What is the thing you squeeze on a
It's an
cow?
udder.
That's
It's
an
an
udder.
udder.
But
Well,
the
nipples. Those are nipples.
They are nipples.
On a nutter?
Yeah, teats.
Yeah, teats. There you go.
I called it a teat, and then it didn't seem like the right word, and then I went to udder, and then I went to farm machine, then I started losing confidence, and then you just barked nipples.
What's with the farm fascination as
Yeah,
of late?
I don't know. I don't
Is
get
this
it.
a late stage? Like, you know what? When we finish here,
usually
me
for-
and Val want to go and own a farm.
I could
somewhere
see
in the
that.
country.
I could see Dan having a farm.
I think you like the
No,
idea
you
of
could
it.
not. No, you could not.
I'm not doing anything on a farm. I'm
Oh,
the
the
wrong guy.
chickens. You're going to have chickens at
He
some
was
point.
so excited about me planting a tree for some reason. Like,
The udders, the entire apparatus, and the teats are
Teats.
part of the udder.
There you go. We've been applying cynicism to this episode. This is a very good episode because he gets more Cuban in studio, and they argue for 90 minutes, and that is very appealing to many. If you're looking for story advancement, there's some of that here. Mark Cuban doesn't really allow for that because he keeps interrupting Pablo with nonsense, really. We want to be good partners to Pablo. This is an episode, if you like people fighting, go for it. If you want a story advancement, listen to the previous episodes.
I would also say if you've only sort of tangentially followed this story, this is a good way of kind of getting all of the information from both perspectives out there, not necessarily in an easy flowing way, but to be able to kind of recap where the story's at.
I just haven't heard anyone other than Mark Cuban providing a different perspective to Pablo's. I haven't heard anything but applause for Pablo, save for Mark Cuban. But the headline on this story is, any investigation of Steve Ballmer should center on one dude, Pablo Torre. Good morning, Pablo Torre. Before we ramrod Steve Ballmer from the NBA, should we investigate whether this Harvard huckster still should be employed in the media business? How's that for a first sentence?
Huckster.
Harvard huckster. The Harvard huckster is going to join us in an hour and 15 minutes. He accused the Clippers owner of circumventing the league's sacred salary caps through a sordid deal with aspiration. Now Commissioner Adam Silver has announced that the NBA vetted and approved the Green Banking Company in 2021. What it means in 2025, Kawhi Leonard, in signing a sponsorship with aspiration in 2022, did nothing to violate the league's collective bargaining agreement. If Ballmer signs a deal with Pepsi, as Silver has said, Leonard can sign a contract with Pepsi afterwards. Should the league operate this way? Fact is, 30 owners make the endorsement rules, not Pablo Torre. The financial firm crashed, which sends co-founder Joe Sandberg to prison, yet no one cares. The league doesn't demand a probe of all sponsorship agreements. Torre could have informed us before he went ape on the air. He didn't. So the Clippers will continue to perform in good faith at Intuit Dome near the airport, despite a so-called legal investigation that might not end until next spring, while proving that former Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban was right in trashing Torre on social media. I appreciate journalists who try to find the truth. I do not appreciate journalists who swing and miss and sell themselves as smarter than the audience. Torre has done this on Around the Horn, the second ESPN show he allowed to fade off the air, and it's time his editors at The Athletic tell him he's leading the majors in strikeouts. Earlier this year, he reported Jordan Hudson would be leaving the North Carolina football program despite her status as Bill Belichick's girlfriend. She has not left at all, yet Torre never apologized. Nor will he apologize for Ballmer. He will continue to wait until the playoffs end and a law firm decides the league was right. By then, he'll be finding out something else that may or may not be true. Torre should probe all 30 teams. What else would he find? He will say the league has a lucrative deal with ESPN. Seriously. Baxter Holmes is a journalist more trustworthy than Torre. The problem with Pablo is that he has worked for Dan Le Batard, who urges him to chase people.
That is a weekly meeting in this person's
That's
defense.
the one that Mark Cuban crashed the other day.
It's calendared.
Yeah.
Who we going after now?
Cracking a story means you must know the entire truth before going public. Who helped bring Torre and Le Batard to Meadowlark Media? John Skipper, who left ESPN as president after a cocaine scandal.
I'm beginning to know where this is from.
Oh, boy.
Any guesses from someone other than Mike? Any guesses who the author of this story is?
I think it was Armando Salguero.
A good guess. It is not Armando Salguero, who wouldn't care once at all about Around the Horn fading.
Who is Jason Whitlock?
Yes, Jason Whitlock.
No.
No? Oh, that's shocking. Shocking.
Same category of disgraced jester fool. Jay Mariotti.
I was gonna guess Jay.
Wow.
Because of the Around the Horn thing.
Yeah.
I had to search the entire internet to find one person who was willing to take Mark Cuban's side and go after Pablo Torre.
He really loves you, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think Jay is hurt by the way everything ended for him at ESPN. And
That's one way to put it.
I think that Jay,
Why? How did things end?
Jay has been writing things since then that suggest that he's a bit embittered that others are having some success that he's not having.
Careful. We do have that weekly meeting, Jay.
Might chase you. You would not like what we find there.
We could
You're
run a
next.
web crawler search on that one, pal.
But
Lycos.
If you're Pablo, though, honest question, because he got criticized for this on Jordan Hudson when he kept going to that click well. And when you think of, I don't know, do you guys even know what the technical definition of a muckraker is? Like an old-timey muckraker. He's in the modern age, applying new school journalism principles and old school journalism principles. He's trying to do what is popular in the internet age with young people while applying old newspaper standards. But it can be viewed as muckraking if you'd like to. He's certainly not afraid to stick his face in with his facts on any argument because he believes the facts are on his side. But I ask you, if you're the only one dominating a story, if that story makes your empire, the business you're building, stronger and stronger because people keep coming over to just you for the information, like this is a super rare thing where only one person has information that that a segment of the audience, hundreds of thousands of people, really crave and aren't getting anywhere else.
Well, like if we're going to treat this criticism seriously, I would appreciate if you're going to attack someone's journalism by doing some journalism of your own. Jay has those chops. He doesn't offer any journalism of his own. He tries to poke holes in Pablo's by just taking the side of the man. Even Mark Cuban, admittedly, in this episode, does his own journalism, has people reach out to him to have a counter argument, just to dismiss Pablo's intentions and dismiss all the journalism thereafter without doing any of your own is lazy even for Jay.
Put it on the poll. Who has done journalism less recently, Dan Le Batard or Jay Mariotti? Because you say he has those chops. I ain't seen him in a long time. Like, I don't know what. He's been giving his opinion for a long time. He hasn't been doing the reporting on journalism in a really long time.
I mean, the point of that whole thing is to take shots at Pablo, you, and I guess the journalism there, and defend Steve Ballmer. That's another thing. You got to be a real weirdo here to just cape up. I understand why Mark Cuban is, because he's an owner. He's of that class. Everybody else that is not an NBA owner, why are you rooting for Steve Ballmer here?
Let me slow you down on this, though, because
you hate media that much.
That part I found curious at the beginning, but people backed off. Like, at the beginning, I found really weird the number of people who didn't want to believe the first story. The first story was an initial backlash against the media and a weird defense of the seventh richest man in the world. But after that, all of those people except Mark Cuban and Jay Mariotti have gone away because Pablo keeps hitting people in the face with a fish. And it's just an assortment of facts that can't really be disputed because he's reporting facts. He's He's not really giving his opinion here. How is it? Can you explain this to me? Because this has happened in the last few years. It kind of snuck up on me the same way two football games on Monday night did. When did that start?
That's just the new norm.
It's probably the fourth time this season it's happened.
It's happening again next week. That means like more of the Monday Night Football weeks are doubleheaders now.
That 7:15er always sneaks up on me.
It's just a doubleheader.
I like it.
I don't hate it.
No,
but
I kind of hate it just because I'm worried about Chris Fowler. You can say no to one assignment. I feel like if we just say no to one, the throat will settle.
I don't know and missed the announcement on when they decided to give us 2 Monday night games. I used to think, there's been a weather-related or a suspension or some sort of scheduling calamity that makes it so that there are 2 Monday night games. I didn't see the announcement that we were now going to 2 Monday night games. Is it because they just want to give ESPN more games and they're a better partner with ESPN? The NFL now owns 10% of ESPN. Is that what's the reason for this?
I mean, they're paying more now. The Bucks are playing the Lions on Monday night. That is a great game. That is a perfect standalone Monday Night Football game. That game is kicking off at 7 because you got Texans Seahawks kicking off at 10 p.m. after that. The Bucs have played on Monday night twice this season, both of them this doubleheader format. I used to think, okay, we're taking in data like the NFL Europe thing. Like, let's see how people react. And then you're 15 years into the experiment and you're like, okay, this is just what it is now. And for Monday Night Football, it feels like this is just what it is now. The majority of the season is going to be doubleheaders.
There's also games in Europe every single week, like through mid-November now. Like every Sunday there's a 9 a.m. game East Coast Lord's time zone because every week there's a game in Europe.
I do believe this is our first 10 p.m. one. All the other ones I believe have been 7:15, 8:15.
But how much is this going to change? And I was not aware that we were changing this. I understand the logic. What's better than 3 hours of Monday Night Football? 6 hours of Monday Night Football. What's better than some football? More football. What's better than just Monday Night Football? Football on Thursdays and football on Sunday morning and football on Christmas and football on Thanksgiving. I understand that they want all the time slots, even the time slots that haven't been invented. But I am confused and do think it's at least partially diluted that there used to be one game we were all watching on Monday night, and now I got to have 2 screens if I want to watch all the games being played on Monday night.
Well, that's the thing about like yesterday. Yesterday there was a 7 o'clock start and like an 8:30 start or something, so they were both being played at the same time. At least this coming Monday, it's staggered somewhat, so you can watch both games. But like a 10 o'clock game can honestly start at 11:30 or 12. That's fine. I don't care about missing
Billy,
that one.
I feel pretty confident. Texans Seahawks 10 o'clock. We're not going to make it.
Oh, no. I start that game later so I don't even see the start of it, so I don't feel like I need to stay up.
Not going to make it.
In terms of being wrong, I was almost introduced to Mark Cuban being wrong when he announced that football was headed to a saturation point that would eventually end up with us wanting less football. He said that about 10 years ago during the concussion crisis, and that has not happened. It's just more and more football everywhere. And there's stuff from the games last night that I do want to talk about before we get to Diana Rossini and an assortment of others. But the question I'm asking you about feeding at this particular trough, isn't it what everybody would do if they were trying to grow their business and they had their teeth in a story that that clearly is something that is leading to, Pablo Torre finds out, growing at a rate that almost no other sports podcast since New Heights, like new sports podcasts, the entire landscape is so fractured and so many audiences are in so many different places that sports podcasts aren't really growing. You're not getting a ton of new sports podcasts that are growing. This one is, and it's because, at least in part, he has seized on 2 stories that make people taste all the other offerings that he has. He's got his own promotional vehicle in that he's got exclusive content at a time that everybody wants exclusive content.
The Chinese are potentially stealing Yannick Sinner's brainwaves to train super soldiers. That was in the middle of all the other reporting. But yes, we're a media company, and the Kawhi investigation from this podcast is doing numbers, bruh.
We'll have Pablo on, and we will read him Jay Mariotti's criticism. The Harvard huckster will join us in about an hour. But locally, we've got a handful of stories that I want to get to that we haven't had time over the last few days to get to. So I will ask you guys which from among these is most interesting to you as a group, because Last week, and we haven't been talking about Inter Miami soccer all that much, and when we do, we're generally just talking about Messi. It's the only thing that we discuss around here as it regards this team. But Jordi Alba announced his retirement after signing an extension, and he is one of 3 signature international names that this team has
outside of Messi.
Has had outside of Messi, correct? And that was weird. That struck me as weird. What didn't strike me as weird, and we didn't talk about this at all, and we should have. I aired here. Eric Spoelstra being named the head of Team USA, while being, from the video room across the street here, the longest tenured coach in the NBA, and in a GM survey, the coach that 52% of the GMs, that's a lot to get that kind of consensus on something as subjective as coaching. 52% of the coaches in the NBA say Eric Spoelstra is still the best coach in the NBA, even though last year he called a timeout he didn't have at the end of a game and cost them the game and had probably his worst year ever, I think. I think it was his worst year ever.
And that shows in the numbers because I believe last year he won it with 60%. So, whatever happened this year, they are people holding that timeout against him, it seems.
And then I want to get to McDaniel saying Tua was wrong. So and the Panthers lost last night. Reinhardt scored a shorthanded goal. I thought they were going to beat Philadelphia when they got down 3-2, and then they started allowing empty net goals, and I'm sure Roy was crushed. He thought they were going to go undefeated this season.
Yeah, 82-0. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought there.
Which one do you guys want to tackle? Which of the 4 is most interesting?
I want to feast on the Dolphins.
Yeah, the Jordi Alba story. We can circle back to that with Greg Cody in here, my beloved football lover. In Greg Cody, I'd like to chew on that story with him.
Where is he today? I was expecting him and Stugotz today. Where is Greg Cody today?
Greg is at the doctor's office finding out whether he needs to have surgery. He will be in tomorrow.
And Stugotz is there for emotional support.
Greg Cody's knee is hurting, and he's probably going to need surgery there, I would think. The way that he was walking yesterday would suggest to me that that's not something small that he's got going on.
Tony said yesterday that he could probably just rehab it.
Well, that's that.
Oh, yep, that's it.
We will have Tony's top 5 somewhere from in South Florida later today. What do you have for me on the Dolphins? Can you get for me, please, the Mike McDaniel sound? I'm surprised that all of you haven't brought up anything yet today on Nick Wright's poker game last night, where he was offering, if he did well, $5,000 for the shipping container. Roy, you were not here. He was offering $5,000 for the shipping container in a big poker game that he had last night, if he ended up winning big money.
That's one of those things that doesn't show up on a 1099 exactly. So how are we to verify any of that? Or ask him, hey, how'd it go? You know?
Yeah, he could be lying, but he did kind of offer it to you guys. Do you guys have video? Because he did send us some video here. We should get that. I know he sent Chris Cody, at the very least, some video about how he did, but I'm surprised you guys have not already asked me today how he did, given that there was going to be $5,000 split among you. That was just free money that Nick Wright offered to give away yesterday.
Yesterday was kind of confusing because I think we're still all trying to sort out the car's involvement and the financials of the situation. Are we trying to acquire a car, take Nick Wright a car? Then there was a doubling down, I think, and someone mentioned escrow at one point in time, and it seemed as though the bets were being escalated to being long-term bets. So I think everything's still being sorted out.
Well, I don't think it's being sorted out. I did indeed wire him money that I was hoping and expecting would end up in the shipping container because I owe him this money, and now I only have 2 outstanding debts. Let's see if Roy, nobody here knew the answer. I have 2 outstanding debts around here, bets that I have not paid off in my lifetime. One was mentioned yesterday, and I don't remember what I lost, and I think this is a contrivance of Mike Ryan and others just to get me to pose like Prince Fielder on the body issue, swinging a bat nude. It has been reported by you guys that I owe that bet, but nobody remembers what it's for, and I'm pretty sure you guys are making that up, and I don't need to pay a bet. Even though I went to a dollar store to buy Prince Fielder's body tattoos, I don't have to pay a bet unless you guys can prove that I owe it. But there is one that still gnaws at me because I don't like to owe people anything. There is a bet that I made on the air years ago that I did not pay and have not paid that I still owe. It still bothers me, and no one can figure it out. Certainly somebody in the audience
If it bothers
knows
you,
this.
just do it.
Well, it requires me getting on an airplane and running in a mascot race.
On an airplane.
Well,
I feel like I'd remember this.
I don't have to run.
Race would not be on the airplane.
Did you dream this?
The mascot
This is
race.
not a
You're
real
running
song.
to the airplane.
No, Roy, do you have
Roy.
me? Roy, you have me running in a mascot race on the aisles of an airplane.
No, running to the actual gate. I don't know, Dan.
Took you very literal there.
Yeah.
Show's been on a long time. You used to be able to do that.
Yeah, don't pin Roy down here. You're the weird one.
What kind of bet is this?
How am I? You guys still don't know what I'm talking about? None of you.
I do. But I know that you're talking about a mascot race at a stadium, I presume.
In Milwaukee,
Yeah.
yes. I bet Matt Mitrione that he would not beat Kimbo Slice
Oh.
in a UFC fight. And I don't remember what the stakes were for him, but the stakes for me were that I had to run. He must be from Milwaukee, right? Like, I'm assuming that that's the reason he was putting me in a race.
Bloomington, Illinois.
Okay, I don't know why it was then. I don't know why he was putting me in some sort of sausage costume. Chris, are you listening to what Nick Wright left you now? He left a voice message. We'll send it to video so that we can all find out together how he did in his poker game. But before we get to that, let's play the Mike McDaniel sound. If you're not familiar with what Tua did, he basically volunteered after that Chargers loss, and we all reacted kind of the same way to this, like, ooh, that's not leadership. Greg Cody disagreed, but most people thought that Tua volunteering that his players, his teammates were late to a players-only meeting, it ended up somehow becoming the talking point that was even larger than the Dolphins losing the game. So Mike McDaniel had to address it yesterday, and he does it in his meandering style, which everyone has gotten tired of because it often includes words chosen incorrectly. Like, it often has words in it that he's trying to use that he thinks mean one thing but don't mean what he thinks they mean.
You know, regardless of an intent and, you know, what was on to his mind, after a loss as the franchise quarterback, that's not the forum to displace that. I think he knows that now. I do honestly believe it was not, there's no ill intention, but you're talking about, you know, I think kind of a misguided representation of, player orchestrated film sessions, and you know, the bottom line is no one's going to be happy, and always is looking for reasons for failure to succeed. So you're trying to look for reasons that you know, you can attribute to losses, and there's a, you know, heavy as the crown of being a franchise quarterback.
There are a number of things in there I want to get to, but what is the phrase he used? Misrepresentation of player-organized film sessions. Is he saying that those weren't player-only meetings, that they're being filed as player-only meetings by Tua because people are late for them?
I think he's saying he called it a players-only meeting. It's players-run film sessions. Like, I don't know if there's a difference there.
Yeah, if you're reading between the lines, maybe Tua's insinuation is that, you know, it's a lot stronger. Your attendance is more strongly recommended when Mike McDaniel's saying, like, this is just like a group film study that they do on the side.
I didn't take it this way, and I'd be interested from a reporter who covers the team. What I thought Mike McDaniel was saying there, even though he used twice as many words as he had to use in order to say it, is that Tua called them players-only meetings because they are meetings that only the players are in. But it's not the emergency players-only meeting that you call when there's a panic and you want to make sure that away from the coaches, you're doing things that not even the coaches do to hold you accountable. I think that what Mike McDaniel was saying there is these are just film sessions. Some guys showed up late, and now Tua's calling them players-only meetings. And when you say they're late for players-only meetings, you're creating You're furthering dysfunction that we've had for a year around here where people think I'm not in charge, we're not in control, and the players don't actually care.
But there is no, to Tua's point, there is no difference in if we all agree we're doing a film session that no coaches are part of and you're late to that, that's the same look as a players-only meeting. Like, that's not good. That doesn't mean everyone's bought in.
But I disagree. Given that these guys are all at the facility for 12 hours a day and that it's given that the whole thing's a military school, there is a difference to me between a film session and Tua called a players-only meeting. To me, there's a difference between those two things. But the way the coach explained that, I don't know what he's talking about when he says it's a misrepresentation of players gathering, but it's the least interesting part of what he said there by saying his quarterback shouldn't have done that, because now he's put his coach in a position where his coach is publicly against his quarterback and saying the quarterback led wrong there. We eat it when it comes to being accountable as quarterbacks. We do not point the fingers at others. When do you ever see that? You guys tell me, after losses with frustration, you get all the cliches. They wanted it more. We weren't trying hard enough. Whatever. We've got to explain the losses. It never comes from the quarterback in a way that makes the coach have to address it the next day and makes the coach and the quarterback look like they're not aligned. Give me all the examples that you guys have of in a press conference. Like, there are a bunch of shitty teams in the NFL. There's only one with a quarterback who has his coach this week coming out afterward and saying, my quarterback said the wrong thing after that game. There's only one. There's only one team in the league where that is happening, and it's just not what the quarterback ever does. That's not the job of a quarterback, is to pretend like you're responsible for everything, even in instances when you're not responsible for stuff.
It's making everybody in town crazy, Dan. I don't know if you've listened to local radio. It's a fun scan. The big dog. You know who I'm talking about, right? There's only one big dog.
But he's not even anti-Tua. He's just
not
getting trolled here by his producer.
Yes, but it's making everybody crazy because no one can actually agree on what's being said here. But here, courtesy of the big dog.
Go look at his numbers.
I know they're terrible.
Okay. A bad example.
Okay.
All right. Hey, we got to go to break here.
You
We
and
got
Omar
more
can
time.
bond over to it.
No, don't throw me in with Omar. Don't throw me with Omar. He says dumbass stuff. Not Omar. He does too, but the Tua stuff. Like, I'm tired of our writers defending every time he says something.
You spent the last 10
they
minutes
feel like
defending
a
him.
PR thing. Anyway, what?
You spent the last 10 minutes defending him, screaming at me.
I'm not benching him. You want to bench him because you sound like a You're talking about bending you want to bench him because he said something stupid yesterday.
That's not the
That's
the,
reason.
That
That's the reason.
I told you weeks ago I want to bench the guy.
And I told you weeks ago they're not benching him.
Yeah, you also told me they were going to beat Carolina, and you told me they were
Don't
going to
throw the other topic in there.
They
Don't
did.
throw
They
the
did
other
cover
topic.
yesterday, though, so you won there.
And by the way,
You took the
again,
points.
this is not just a Tua thing. It's not just a Tua thing. We got a defensive problem.
Okay, Omar.
Chargers had 400 yards. What? You don't want to hear it, dumbass? We're here. You listen to what you want to listen to, Woody. No wonder your wife wants to punch you in the face half the time. Hey, right now I want to talk to you about air around the clock, air conditioning, and plumbing.
Around the clock.
No wonder your wife wants to punch you.
He's still doing it the same way, and I love that he's still doing it the same way.
Hey, right now I want to talk to you about air around the clock, air conditioning, and plumbing.
He's still got that fastball. Now, the fastball may have always been 93 miles per hour, but it is pain in the black.
1997-93 was another thing.
No wonder your wife wants to punch you in the face half the time. Hey, right now I want to talk.
Chris Cody said the other day, and it really brought what I'm going to call sheer delight into my life from a different time. Felt a little bit like eating those Hampton Farms peanuts does in terms of taking me back to my youth. Chris Cody comes in the other day and just volunteers to me. I wanted to punch the radio on the way in because of what the big dog was saying about Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah, it was him and the producer. They were on the same page with, you can't yell at a guy anymore. And I'm like, he hit him! And they're both just like, come on. And like, what happened? Back in my day, you could yell at a guy. I'm like, he hit him! I'm like shouting at I wanted to call in. I wanted to find out Hollywood's number so I could text him.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Do you still shout at your radio?
Do you think his wife does want to punch that? They probably made that part up.
No, that's his move. The part that made me smile is what he does in his pivot, which has been his pivot for 30 years, which is some form of how are the ladies treating you? The ladies hate you, or the ladies love you. Those are that's it.
No wonder your wife wants to punch you in the face half the time. Hey, right now I want to talk to you about air around the clock, air conditioning, and plumbing.
Billy, does it? You are moved sometimes when DJ Zaz would be a totally different creature. DJ Laz, the pimp with the limp, is on the radio, or Kenny Walker is on the radio. Does Joe Rose still do this for you locally?
No.
Oh, wow.
No, not really. I mean, He hasn't not been on the radio. He's just been on the radio for my entire life, forever. Yeah. So it's not nostalgic if I hear him. Even I've never not heard him. It's just always there.
You've outgrown the entire Joe Rose experience. At one time, you did care what Joe Rose was saying about things, did you not? Or you never cared?
I think we always cared how he said them. Yeah. That was always a thing for me with Joe. It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it.
You hardened media veterans now. Never had a soft spot for Joe Rose yelling at the radio before it is that you yelling on the radio before you became graduates of the radio, and therefore you never were interested in anything Joe Rose was doing here locally when he was dominating the entire market.
I used to be a coworker at Joe Rose. I have always been more into Joe Rose for the ad reads.
I like Joe Rose on TV. I don't know. Joe Rose on the radio was never really like my thing. I listen to footy in the morning.
You don't want to hear it, dumbass?
I don't have a bad thing to say about you, Mr. Rose. You're a legend, and you have a huge head.
Have you ever accused him of, in your area and field of expertise, painting his hair black?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of fallen off a little bit more salt than the pepper. But, yeah, I mean, he was a TV newsman for quite a while. Yeah, that's what they do.
The Eric Spoelstra story of him leading Team USA, I don't think that we should, just because he's the longest tenured coach in the market. And I guess to many people listening to this, he's an old guy now. But he started in this organization as somebody who started at the very bottom of the organization. We talked to Kevin Harlan last Friday, and I did not know that he started as a ball boy. Mike McDaniel started as a ball boy for the Denver Broncos. It's not the most common thing to go and arrive at all of your dreams by snaking through. Eric Spoelstra's loved basketball all his life, snaking through the entire system so that you're now the coach of Team USA. You're replacing Greg Popovich, Mike Krzyzewski. This is the top of your profession where you're honoring your country and, quiet as it's kept because he's Filipino Jackson, another country where he has enormous support because he is representation that you do not have in leadership in American sports very often. Eric Spoelstra is a giant pillar now from the video room across the street, like from fetching errant free throws for guys who are shooting free throws during practice. He goes from the very bottom rung of the basketball ladder over his career to somebody who is now representing us worldwide as the face and voice of, our one of our proudest Olympic teams.
And the origins you talk about in his career, the real rarity is that it all happened with one organization. Because you mentioned, right, McDaniel, a ball boy with the Broncos, but you end up in all of these different coaching spots, working your way up the ladder. The thing that's the craziest about Spoelstra's experience is that it's all been here from the jump. It's all been under Riley's wing, and now he's blossomed into this coach that is the most well-respected coach in the league, and now leading maybe the greatest United States team that we have, maybe outside of gymnastics. It's so impressive, and, I mean, it couldn't happen to a better guy.
The thing that is interesting about what you just said, the nature of the tenure, the nature of the stability. We just talked yesterday about James Franklin, who was, I guess, 34-8 in his last 42 games, and how quickly his job security vanished when he's one of the longest tenured ones. It does really make me wonder whether we'll be allowed to see another story like this, whether there will be organizational stability enough anywhere that you can just withstand that 17 games into 2010, LeBron doesn't want you anymore as the coach, and you have the backing right behind you of the president who's saying, no, I'm not going to protect myself. We're seeing this with the Dolphins, okay? What's happening with the Dolphins is no one wants the blame. Why would anyone want to be the one responsible for it's all falling apart? I think James Franklin fast forwards everything in college sports, makes it all the more professional because even as it was expected, that's one of the guys who had some sort of security. That's one of the highest paid guys, 12 years. And I'm going to say it again, 34-8 in his last 42. That doesn't lose a lot of jobs in America. Like that record I can put at maybe Alabama, maybe. But 34-8, you don't lose your job. And we've changed all of the rules by throwing money at it. So who's the next guy?
It's not just throwing money at it, it's people throwing money at it. If guys like boosters and guys and girls like boosters were funding Mike McDaniel's salary at the Miami Dolphins, he would have been gone weeks ago.
You're saying that rich owners are more tolerant?
There are more voices in the room.
Than boosters?
Yeah.
It's good.
Your body is comedy. You're going.
That's Florida, bro.
You're going maximum Florida, man.
That's Florida.
When did you decide to start doing that? When was it encouraged? When did that become your signature? The idea that you're up there just throwing your body at the people here in a tight pair of jeans, shirtless.
I was. The jeans have gotten tighter the fat I've gotten. They weren't always tight. My daughter said Baby Walrus needs to move out of skinny jeans. I started doing it just to cheer myself up because you get on the road and do like a Thursday night and you'd be like, I got a whole weekend ahead of me. This is gonna be a long weekend. I'm missing my family. It's not sold out. So I would rip my shirt off and kill a beer to make myself giggle because I thought it was silly and to remind myself this should be fun. And then one night I was in Columbus, Ohio. I ripped my shirt off and killed a beer. And then something happened in the room and I forgot to put it back on. And one of the comics I respected was in the back and he was like, bro, you just did a whole hour with your shirt off.
And how does this work with comfort with your body? Because not everyone can do that. You're the first to be doing that. Not everyone is comfortable enough with their size to be in front of thousands of people shirtless like that because it is funny.
It's interesting because I have this reverse body dysmorphia. So like I heard a story, secret time. Obviously I'll tell you, but secret time. I heard a story that Chris Pratt was a fat kid growing up and that someone told me like he'll always be fat in his head. No matter how great of shape he is, he'll always think of himself as a fat kid. I was in shape as a kid, and so I do not see myself fat at all. Ripped. As a matter of fact, I think in Razzle Dazzle, I look low-key jacked. I think I look better than I've ever looked. My shoulders, dude, look at my shoulders.
You are jacked. Oh, yeah. You got some cuts right there. You see it there?
I mean, I'm feeling good. I feel great about my body.
The new Netflix stand-up special, Razzle Dazzle.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Bert, stop making those
Never show your belly button.
Yes.
Do that thing where you're,
Let's increase your female viewers.
make your boobs move.
This is a body you can get.
Razzle Dazzle is the stand-up special. How old would you have to be? What is the age if I came up to you and said, Bert, you're not going to believe this, but the new movie, Machine, it's in theaters in May, and Razzle Dazzle, a Netflix special, is happening. At what point in your career, at what age would you have said, yeah, that's a possible dream?
Oh, 50? Where I am. I didn't think any of that was going to happen. Listen, I got to be dead honest with you. I shot Razzle Dazzle in November, and I'm used to the Netflix specials, but with the Machine movie, that was sitting on a shelf. They weren't doing anything with it, and they weren't going to release it. And it wasn't until I leaked it on Rogan that it got life.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Chris Cody, are you going to hit the Stephen A. Smith happy birthday sound, or should I hit it? All right. Happy 23rd birthday to Emeka Egbegbue.
Emeka Egbegbue.
Happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
Emeka Egbegbue.
My bad. I had the Emeka wrong. I got the Egbegbue right. But
Emeka Egbegbue.
Okay. Happy 23rd birthday for him. He has no functioning hamstrings. Baker Mayfield will win without him. Doesn't need him in any way, even though he is great. The things happening with Baker Mayfield are a little bit puzzling to me. Yesterday on the show, I said no two people in human history would have tackled him on that 3rd and 14 first down run, because he was going to get that first down by lowering his shoulder and somehow running between two tacklers.
Who do you think's the best person like in history to be a football player that wasn't a football player, just based on stature?
Tony.
Okay, I'm going to have to do this to Jeremy. I'm sorry that I have to do this.
To Jeremy?
We got a major penalty on Jeremy. 5 minutes for being Jeremy.
A major? He said he was yes and.
But all he gave me was Tony.
Yeah, that was funny.
It was?
Yeah, I didn't see you doing anything with a question.
Well, that's giving Billy the room to be Billy. But since, you know what? You're right, actually.
Who's this for?
I don't know.
Billy's got a major penalty. 5 minutes for being Billy.
A major? You got to call it both ways.
Can you guys put on the screen, please, in the corner as Diana Rossini joins us from The Athletic, just that Knicks game last night, the tic-tac-toe that the fans were playing. Just put it in the corner for entertainment purposes as Diana is on with us so that people can just enjoy that on an endless loop. And also, play for Diana, please, what happened to Adam Schefter yesterday, where Adam Schefter goes on Pat McAfee and says this on McAfee.
I don't see, it doesn't mean I'm right, but I don't see a coaching move being made anytime soon.
And then less than an hour later, he tweeted out, Brian Callahan has been fired.
That is correct. Diana Rossini's
Pumped about
worst nightmare.
Worst.
And in his defense, he's asked by McAfee, so he's just like, I don't know is not a good answer here, so I got to give some jazz hands.
He says he could be wrong, and then he was wrong less than an hour later. Diana, how surprising was this in league circles? Mike Ryan was overjoyed. He thinks that Callahan is a clown show for his beloved Cam Ward.
Bad franchise.
Yeah, I don't think Brian Callahan getting fired was shocking. It was just when he was fired. There was a belief around the league that this regime, right, of Mike Berganzi, the new general manager, he's leading all this, wanted to keep Callahan to just kind of get through this season. I don't think they believed in an in-season firing. So to me, this is in defense of Schefter, by the way. I think the reason why he said he didn't believe that there'd be a firing, because I think he also was aware that they did not want to do this, right? So what does that usually tell you? If the people running the show, we'll call it, are saying we're not going to fire Brian Callahan, and then there's a firing, that reeks of ownership. That's owner calling, going, yeah, I can't do this anymore. And I believe that that's kind of how that happened and why that went down. To also Schefter's defense, he did kind of shelf it, right? Because he's like, I could be wrong. He's smart. Like, I'm an idiot sometimes when I do this stuff. I'm like, nobody's getting fired. Not today. No way. I have to do a better job of, because he's been doing this so long. He knows things can change like that. And that's exactly what happened. And he had to eat it a little bit. But on to the next one. No one broke the Callahan story. The Titans did. The Titans were the one who put that out, so we all lost.
Diana, it seems to be a mess of a franchise. They've made bad move after bad move. I guess the whole chain started with getting rid of Mike Vrabel, who seems to be doing really well in New England. There is a very weird ascension of Chad Brinker over there. I think he was brought in by Rand Carthon and then became Rand Carthon's boss and then pushed him out. We're running out of people to point the finger at for Chad. How safe is he?
I know. It's a good point, right? Because let's go back even two more regimes, right? Mike Mularkey was fired after winning a playoff game, right? So he gets fired. John Robinson's the general manager. He hires Mike Vrabel. They trade A.J. Brown. They go to Philadelphia. A.J. Brown lights them up. Philadelphia fans are screaming at their owner. They fire John Robinson the next week. They get through a few more. They get through that season. The next season they bring on, or that season they bring on Rand Carthon. Mike Vrabel tells the owner he's not ready. I like him. Let's just make him an assistant. He's just not ready to be a GM. Owner says, great. Not trusting what you have to say because I want to pick who the general manager is. I don't want you having all the power. Well, she picks Rand Carthon. They figure out pretty quickly he's not the right choice either. Either way, it's Vrabel that gets the boot. So then Vrabel leaves, takes a year off, hangs out with the Browns for a little bit. Now he's obviously in New England having some early success, and we'll see how this thing transcends. And then they wind up firing Rand Carthon. And as you said, now Chad Brinker is part of all this. I think Chad Brinker has his tentacles in all of this for sure, but I think his relationship with ownership and their belief in what he can do is really strong. If you heard their press conference last night, and I'm not sure if you guys tuned into it because it was like 8:30 Eastern during Monday Night Football, Mike Bergonzi and Chad Brinker sat at the table in front of the Titans media and laid out the picture of we have 9 Super Bowls between us in the front office, which is a wild thing to say, I believe, to basically say we have the credentials to fix this. Yet we all know we have not seen that. So, Mike, I do think a lot of people were making this about Brian Callahan versus Mike Vrabel. And then obviously the Patriots are coming in to Nashville this weekend to play them. And there was definitely some chatter yesterday that did the Titans fire Brian Callahan before Mike Vrabel could come into town and embarrass them if they won to just avoid it? Right? Like, let's just not give him the satisfaction. Let's just fire Brian now.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's true. That's just like fun theories that people had going on yesterday. But this was never about comparing Brian Callahan to Mike Vrabel. I think we all could agree that Vrabel is a better coach. I think the story of this upcoming Sunday is the dysfunction of this organization with the number 1 overall pick who has shown that he can play. Are they going to be able to fix this and get the most out of the player? And I think the Vrabel side to this is, look, I don't think he ever really wanted to leave Tennessee. I think he wanted to be there for the rest of his life, and they had some success there. But at the end, it was obvious that him and the owner did not like one another. So this is more about ownership versus Mike Vrabel on Sunday.
It's not just Cam Ward at this point, though, where the number 1 pick has had their coach fired. It's the last 4 quarterbacks taken number 1 overall. Schefter tweeted this out yesterday. It's Trevor Lawrence. Urban Meyer was fired in 2021. Yep. It's Bryce Young. Frank Reich was fired. It's Caleb Williams. Matt Eberflus was fired. And now Cam Ward, Brian Callahan was fired. All during the first season of these number 1 overall picks.
Well, guys, it's usually because there's disorder during that time. There's very rarely a GM and a head coach together making the selection. It's all messed up, which is why we're seeing, and I believe it to be the story of the year of just the resurgence of quarterbacks that are in the right programs, whether it's Sam Darnold in Seattle, whether it's Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay, Mac Jones in San Francisco, Daniel Jones in Indy, right? Like, these guys, most thought they stunk when they were drafted by the teams that took them. And now they all are playing some of the best at the position. And think about being those teams, right? Like, you think the New York Giants aren't watching Daniel Jones like, what the? Like, where did that come from?
Well, no, they gave him money thinking that they had an idea of where that came from. And it's not just the last 4, it's 6 of the last 8. I want to ask you some things about the last, the couple of games that we saw last night before we get to this Tua sound. You guys do realize at this point that the 4 teams that the Bills have defeated have a combined record of 3-21. And it's not just that, because that's bad enough, right? It's also this, because we've been talking a lot about the Eagles. Over the last 2 weeks, the Eagles are 0-2. They've scored 17 points a game, and they've allowed 5.7 yards per play. The Bills also 0-2, also scoring 17 points, also allowing 5.7 yards per game. Which is the bigger problem there, Diana? Is it that their defense is really injured, or is it that those skill players that I thought would be better can't get deep downfield, that Shakir is their only wide receiver weapon, and all of a sudden you've turned Josh Allen into somebody who's not throwing the ball downfield?
Yeah, I'm not going to worry about the offense as much as I'm going to worry about the defense for Buffalo, right? Because you've got one of the best players in football playing quarterback. He just looked rushed last night. He was speeding up too much. And all like the first part of the season, I feel like the part of his game that was so strong was that he slowed down. I was talking to some defensive coordinators before their games when they would face the Bills. And that was something that they noticed, that he is sitting there way more comfortable in the pocket rather than running and doing all those Josh Allen things that are sometimes magnificent. And then I do think we saw last night when he's feeling that pressure, he's kind of going back to some of those old habits. Yet he always finds ways to sort this out. So less worried about these Bills skill players. Although fans will tell you, let's go get A.J. Brown, trade deadline's coming up, let's make a move. We'll see if they're going to do that. I don't get the sense right now the Bills are going to make some big splash before this trade deadline. As for defense, like, yeah, this is, you have a defensive-minded head coach. This is where they need to hold it down. And it definitely obviously affects the way this offense plays. And we're seeing some holes now, and this is going to be something to haunt them if they don't fix it.
I thought he was hurt last night. I thought he got hurt, and then all of a sudden his passes were low and very inaccurate. More inaccurate than I've seen him in a minute. You thought that was pressure, not injury.
No, that's pressure. Jeff Ulbrich has done a phenomenal job. When do we ever talk about an Atlanta Falcons pass rush that's good? These guys are tough, and they were just smothering Josh. And I think that's where the problems were coming from. I don't think, and I'd like to look this up, maybe when you guys can. I'd be curious if this was the most pressure we've seen on Josh Allen in a game this season. I bet you it's up there.
I like that, DC. He's got a weird Liver King vibe over there. His son made crank call Shador. I don't know. He's crazy. I dig him.
I know. Isn't that funny? Like that's how we're going to recall him as. Like the guy's doing a great job with his Falcons defense. We're like, well, his son called Shador. What a weird story that was.
Speaking of weird results, Atlanta losing 30-0 to Carolina confused me.
Carolina's confusing, dude.
Okay. You know, sometimes like we do this and we're so in it, and I don't know, sometimes I have to like step out in order to understand and really appreciate football. I woke up on Monday going, the Panthers are 3-3. Like I had to check it on my phone.
Their season's over.
You know, like they're one of those stories where you have to check it because you're not sure about it. Credit to them, right? They're fighting. I think they're one of the more surprising teams right now. Being able to, you can't overlook them anymore. I feel like you could do that last year. The Panthers put up a fight now, so good for them.
To Diana's point, incidentally, Josh Allen was pressured 56% of the dropbacks last night. So that's the most since 2021. And they were getting pressure it wasn't with blitzes. Like they were getting pressure with their front four.
Correct. Yeah. You can see it too. All right. Yeah. So I'm that worked out statistically. Sometimes it doesn't, but that makes a lot of sense. But right now, look, there's so much parity in football, and it, like, even right now I'm thinking about like, who are the best teams? You know, like we did this last time we were together, guys, and we were talking about the Colts and we were talking about the Bucs, and they're the 2 5-1 teams left, right? But who's the third then? Is it Detroit? Like who's the third best team in football at this point?
Is this good or bad that we don't know who's good and who's bad? Because everybody always says like parity's so great. It's like, I like really good teams.
I guess it just depends on what you want to see. As a reporter, I love it because it keeps this interesting. The fact that like I care about the Panthers now is fun.
We know the Colts are good. We know Denver's good, right? No, like.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, Billy, I'm with you. It's like, like Bo Nix kind of stunk against the Jets. And look, a lot of the Denver mistakes were self-inflicted. And you look at what this Jets team was doing, and it's like, how did they not just blow them out? But you're right. Like, the only team that I was making that noise about a month ago that I no longer am making it's the Chiefs. They found themselves. They're just about to take off. In my opinion.
What's this noise? What's this noise that you're making?
Everybody knows the noise.
It's like.
So your analysis of so when I ask you every team in the league, are they good? Everyone but the Chiefs is going to get that sound.
Yeah. So like if you'd like to do it, we'll go through it.
Sure. Let's go ahead and do
it. The Steelers.
Schedule's tough.
Yeah. The Bills?
Defense not great.
Patriots?
Not there yet.
Chargers?
I don't trust them.
These are different noises. These are all different.
It's a scale, Dan. You don't get it. It's a scale.
Yeah, it's a range of
Because even the Colts, the Colts are good. They're the best team in the AFC, but
Seattle.
I don't see them in the Super Bowl.
All right, let's do this. Who gives you, Billy? Who gives us the strongest
I mean, I don't know because
Seattle.
Even the Bucks seem good, but they're injured, and Baker's always capable of doing something dumb at the
Rams,
wrong time.
the Rams. You guys are going to do this with everybody?
That's the league.
The Lions.
This is our point, though. This isn't
You guys don't
fun.
know that the Lions are good? You guys don't feel like Green Bay is good?
Okay, all right, I can go on the other side of it. Let's do the other side. Like we could do Browns.
Dolphins.
Titans.
Jets. No.
You're
playing the game wrong.
You better stop.
I just keep thinking, I'm the senior NFL insider at The Athletic, owned by the New York Times, and I'm going.
Yeah. And the Zoom's not picking it up, unfortunately, because the Raspberry is always a good sound.
Diana, we're in a really interesting time for quarterback play in the league. It used to be a guy like Geno Smith, a guy who bounced around and reshaped himself into a starter in the NFL, was an outlier. And now you have stories like Baker Mayfield, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, guys that it took a little time, and now they're playing at elite levels. How does the league take this recent sample and apply it to guys like Spencer Rattler, Trevor Lawrence, even Anthony Richardson? Because we're seeing this recent trend in the league now where guys are bouncing around, they're getting with the right quarterback coach, and they're meeting their ceilings.
Yeah, it's find the right programs led by the right people, right? I think Kevin O'Connell has done a great job with any quarterback that stepped in Minnesota. Kyle Shanahan does it every single season. It's why he's so well regarded. It's this McVay tree, the Shanahan tree of coaches that are the ones that seem to be unlocking a lot of the quarterback play. So I think the story, or at least the lesson from this, is you really can't give up on a lot of these guys that have the mental toughness, right? Like I was talking to somebody in Indy recently about Daniel Jones, and also I was talking to someone in Minnesota about Daniel as well. And they just kept pointing to his toughness from his time in New York, dealing with a lot of those challenges, but also just the fact that he's so coachable. And those are things I think that are just really important, even at the level of the NFL. I think those characteristics exist. Sam Darnold was probably one of the best examples of when you talk to coaches around the league, they used to always say, he can play, I'm telling you. And it would get so frustrating because you wouldn't see it. Saquon Barkley said the same thing to me about Daniel Jones when he went to Philly. I remember the first thing I said to him was, man, you got to be pumped about playing with Jalen Hurts now, right? Daniel Jones. He's like, no, Daniel is really good. You guys don't get it. Like, you give him an O-line, you give him a run game with someone like me, which we're seeing with Jonathan Taylor, and we're seeing with a great O-line in Indy. Voila. It's there. It's less and more pretty good.
By the way, off of last night's game, I misspoke. It wasn't pressure with 4. Atlanta was bringing 5 on 5, but it wasn't.
You said 5.
I said pressure with 4 because it was a pressure rate that was 5 guys beating 5 other guys. It wasn't 6 or 7 guys, but 5 guys does qualify as a blitz. They weren't doing it with 4. They were doing it mostly with 5.
Yeah, they were very effectively sending their corners
Yes.
too, surprising Josh Allen's, forcing him to his weaker side.
The other game last night, what did you make of Chicago and Washington? And does our NFL insider know when and how we suddenly got 2 games on Monday night? Did they tell you? Was there an announcement how that happened? I used to remember, Monday night only had 2 football games if one of the games on Sunday had been postponed for some sort of strange reason. A hurricane was coming or something.
I know, they double up. Do you like it though?
I do, but it just used to be that Monday Night Football was a singular game with singular announcers, not a diluted 2 games, and I'm watching them at once, and I've got to watch Washington and Chicago while I'm more interested in the other game.
Yeah, I personally don't love it. I'm liking the Sunday morning international games. I do it's a long day for all of us, but I like waking up, and I watch the game so differently in the morning. Like I'm way more reserved. I'm calmer. It's just like a warm up to what the rest of the day is going to be. in our house, I'm used to actually having soccer on, so it's nice to just start the day with a football game. I don't like the doubling up at night because I just think it's just too hard for my little brain to watch both games, and then I'm up late. All of it, all those stupid problems that come with it. The wildest part to me, guys, and you guys are on the same time zone as me. It's just my friends on the West Coast. Like, I think we underestimate how awesome that is for them. Like, they're done watching their football and they have a whole night ahead of them. We're all like under our covers, like looking at Twitter, after these games. They're living a life. That is the one thing I do wish that we could change, is just have the games on earlier. But in terms of what I saw, I mean, the Bears came out looking prepared. They obviously used that bye week to get ready for this. And the run game that I saw from on both sides of the ball, being able to stop the run and slow the Commanders down, something that they've done so well, I think was really impressive. And just to be able to go back to Washington after the way we saw Chicago lose last year on that Hail Mary, and essentially ended that year for them, right? Like that was an exorcism. One of our Bears writers was talking about that last night, of like, that game against the Commanders last year for the Bears is where it all fell apart. Matt Eberflus went in that the whole thing was just a disaster. So for the Bears to be able to turn it around this fast, like, I think we all knew Ben Johnson was going to be a good head coach, and he was obviously sought after, and he didn't make the decision to become a head coach until he felt ready. But I am surprised how quick he turned this around.
And you're willing to say that it is turned around. That's Chicago. Is Chicago good?
Chicago's good.
What?
They've got
what?
the right.
Chicago's the one that's good.
Could be.
No. They've got the building blocks of a team that are going in the right direction. Like that. That's what
is Chicago good?
You don't get the
my
sound.
bar for them is very low, right? So there's also that you have to factor in. Like, they get a big picture, but for Chicago and what those expectations are from a first-year head coach, and seeing how Caleb needed a lot of coaching, like, this is good. Bears fans should be waking up today, like, just enthusiastic that this is headed in the right direction.
Let's play the Tua sound for her here and get her reaction. There is only one team in the league where the coach has to come out the next day and say, my quarterback said the wrong thing.
I think it starts with the leadership in helping articulate that for the guys, and then what we're expecting out of the guys, right? We're expecting this. Are we getting that? Are we not getting that? We have guys showing up to player-only meetings late, guys not showing up to player-only meetings. Like, there's a lot that goes into that. Do we have to make this mandatory? Do we not have to make this mandatory? It's a lot of things of that nature.
To be clear, you're saying some players were late or missed?
Late, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mike McDaniel said afterward, that's the wrong way to handle that. That has to be in-house. Your thoughts?
It's a mess. We talk about cultural issues inside locker rooms and problems that these teams have, and it's hard to point to what those are. They just put it out on Front Street. Like, they just told you the state of the Miami Dolphins. You have your franchise quarterback, the captain of their team, admitting that people are late, admitting that people aren't doing the things that they need to be doing to be a successful team. And I know their head coach came out and protected him a bit, I think, despite the fact that his quarterback is taking shots at him. Look, the most common question I get around football right now is when is this going to be over, right? Like, I think everyone's just watching the Dolphins and waiting to see when Stephen Ross goes, okay, enough. This is never going to turn around, which is unfortunate, because I do think at times they had potential, but this has now become what it looks like from the outside, the quarterback going up against the head coach, and that's not going to work.
They also seem to be getting stuck in a game of semantics where when Mike McDaniel came out to say Tua shouldn't be saying that, Tua said there's players skipping player-only meetings, and Mike McDaniel's like, well, they're not exactly player-only meetings. They're player-called film study sessions that they're not attending, so it's not that big a deal. Why is this so weird?
Can we just get rid of player-only meetings? They don't work, right? And even just the definition of meeting, we saw it with Philadelphia, right? It's like, they're like, oh, yeah, we met. And A.J. Brown's like, no, we didn't. Like, we were walking to our cars and you were like, yo, catch the ball, or whatever the heck their conversation was, like that was not a meeting. And I think it's because Philly has tried so hard internally to fix it and it's not working. Like, it's almost like relationships, right? Like, when things aren't good and your significant other or your partner just wants to keep talking about it and you're like, enough with the talking about it. This is not going to fix anything. And the Dolphins are in the same bucket. Like, there's nothing they can talk about anymore. They are what they are, which is not a very good team run by bad leaders right now, and it's not going to get turned around. And I just think that they want to stop the bleeding because they don't want to be embarrassed at this point, because the wheels are off in Miami.
I feel like each team should only be allowed one players only meeting a year. Like, that's all you get, and you get to choose when it is that you have the players only meeting. Because if you're having it every week, it's completely pointless.
But I told you guys this offseason, I saw something I've never seen before. Never in my history covering sports. A football team got together on an off day without the coaches and had a practice that was players only. No coaches. They had training camp, and then on a day off, they got together. That team, to Diana's point of how useful these things are, the New York Jets. The New York Jets had a players-only practice this offseason, and that's the worst team in the sport, which is hard to do when Brian Callahan's team exists.
I mean, but that works when it's Tom Brady during COVID and you're breaking protocol, right? When it's like Justin Fields is calling you to like a park, it's like, did you reserve this field? Like, there's kids, they have a game today. Get off the field.
Diana,
turf, is it grass?
Before we let you go here, can you tell me any coffee shop updates that you have? You're having to do a lot of work at the coffee shop. I don't know if you're treating the coffee shop the way that Billy treats the bathroom, as a good place to read to get away from his family.
Yes, Billy, I'm in the same camp as you. I write on deadline on Fridays. So I always just go to this one great coffee shop. Like, it's cozy. They keep the heat on. It's warm. And I'd say like week 1 or 2, they realized that I was a writer because I was sitting there on the computer. And I mentioned I'm a sports writer. And they just keep sending out fresh cups of coffee. They used to give me plastic cups. Then they started giving me a mug. One time I took a call, I came back, there was a pastry next to my computer. They never charged me. So this is my spot. It's like my own little home on Fridays. And so this past Friday, I think it was the owner, they're Turkish. And he said, I want to reach you. He said, where can I reach you? And I said, oh, The Athletic. And so he pulls out the app and he's going to the soccer page. And I said, no. Football, American football. And he just goes, oh. Shuts the app. No more free coffee.
Oh, no.
No more goods.
No
more muffins. No more warmed up banana bread. I realized that I should have just stuck with it. I should have just been like, yeah, I do a little soccer. I dabble there. So I got to find a new coffee shop. So no longer welcome.
So
there.
sorry. That's terrible. What a terrible ending to this segment. They brought you a free pastry, and now it's gone because you were doing the wrong football. She's the senior NFL insider for the wrong football on The Athletic and the host of the Scoop City podcast that talks about the wrong football. Thank you, Diana. Good seeing you. Always nice seeing you. We will talk to you next week.
Bye, guys. See you next week.
I am told we have an update from Nick Wright, Nick Wright's poker game. Roy, you missed out on all of this. You were not going to be part of the $5,000 that Nick Wright will or won't give the shipping container.
God damn it.
We're going to find out together whether or not you guys, what's your level of enthusiasm? Billy, what do you think's going to happen here? He had a giant poker game with high stakes people. He didn't even want to tell his wife about it because there are billionaires involved. It's a game above his head, and this is a man who puts $5,000 aside as one of his bets during the week because he's a big-time gambler. What do you think's going to happen here?
I don't know. I mean, he seems to have a lot of disposable income, though, yesterday he told us.
And if you didn't hear yesterday, what he told us yesterday was in this poker game, if he won big, the $5,000 that Dan owes him, he would give to the shipping container. Yeah. And if he lost, he was going to need that money from Dan, and the shipping container would get nothing.
It was specifically going to be split, by the way, just so we can clarify this. Not Tony. Yeah. Juju, Greg, I think we were sort of including.
Yeah, he was
The
maybe.
4 of us back here,
Lewis
Chris,
wanted
Billy,
in,
Mike,
too.
and me.
Possibly Lewis,
Sorry,
because
no
you
Roy.
mentioned him.
I did reach out to Nick after the show, trying to actively cut Tony out from the pot. Nick allowed him to be in.
So
the
tell me what the cuts are going to be and what are you expecting here? Does anyone know what the result is? Because he has sent a video. Do you guys know what the result is and how many ways is $5,000 going to be split if he won last
I think
night?
we should hear from Nick first and see if we're getting
Sounds
money.
like 0 ways.
Well, but I don't
I expect a lot of talk and no action from Nick Wright.
Okay, so but just to be clear, Mike, since you texted him after the show, it would be split how many ways? Because I
We
didn't know.
didn't get that far. Yeah. Everything was dependent on him winning a big time
And then
poker game
Juju
anyways.
came in the post game, and we said Juju's in too. So it's very
So
confusing.
it's like seven
I don't
of us,
know.
I think.
I don't know why you're including my dad. I think it's 6 of us. I think it's
Greg was in.
the 4 of us, excluding Roy. Sorry, you weren't here. He said shipping container though, and then Juju was part of it, and
I'm good.
Lewis.
I'm good letting Roy have part of my cut.
Okay, so Roy's in now too.
Yeah,
that does make
But
sense.
hold
I
on.
appreciate
This
you.
is like
Thank
the
you.
classic. You go to a restaurant situation and you start splitting checks. You said Roy can have a part of your cut.
Yeah, I'll
But
I'll pay
yeah,
for
but
Roy.
then it has to be because like this is what happens. You go to a restaurant.
What'd you
And
order,
then
Roy?
couples throw in one card, and then the single people throw in one card,
right.
and then you realize, oh, the couple. Each person's actually paying half as much as the single person who's putting in a card.
You didn't
so
have
we need to
wine.
set this down and get everything. Well, first let's see if we won anything.
I
This
had
could all be
none
all
of the
for naught.
appetizer.
Yeah.
So Juju, as I recall, had nothing to do with this bet. You guys are now divvying money up that isn't yours yet and was never yours to divvy up. I asked Nick Wright to send a video of how he did and who he's giving the money to. You guys don't get to decide who gets the money. I was just curious how it is you'd already divvied it up. So I wanted to see who would get mad at whom.
Nick definitely said in yesterday, you guys divvy it up how you see fit.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
That was definitely
Well,
said.
but I asked him to send a video to tell us an update, and I see that this is about what it would look like if he were leaving a billionaire's party, walking down the street, being Nick Wright. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, after complaining that I text him at 2 o'clock in the morning, he sent this.
What up, Le Batard crew? Promised you guys an update. This is what I call a good news, bad news situation. Good news. I've definitely got a seat in that game whenever I want it. Runs about once a month. As I said going into it, huge favorite. Moving forward, that is. Bad news. I lost. How much did I lose? You know, no way to tell. Except, there's a way to tell. But enough that my chest is a little tight right now. Not from the cigarette. Double bad news for the shipping container. I really wanted you guys to have that $5,000. But I'm gonna need it. It actually would probably be helpful for me if I can just have Dan send it directly to a soon creditor, but that's between Dan and I. You can use this however you see fit. Sorry I let you down, guys. Talk to you guys soon.
You didn't let us down because I love the visuals of walking through New York City and seeing somebody who I could identify as either a vampire or a werewolf. Like that person.
Yeah, that would be terrifying.
There's a vampire
He could be
smoking
both.
a
I'm with you.
cigarette. Which does he look like?
He's a
more
lichen,
there?
no doubt.
If he turned into a werewolf right there when saying his chest tightened at the idea of me trying to figure out how to Venmo him a white Corvette, if he turned into a what would be more likely? Put that picture up on Twitter at Le Batard Show and just ask the question: what is this walking through the streets of New York City at 2 a.m.? Is it a vampire or is it
eyeballs?
Or
even.
is it a werewolf? What is? Is it?
They're black like a doll's eyes.
He was also doing circles, if you noticed. The same buildings kept going from side to side.
That's New York.
He does not have any white in his eyes. There is a lack of soul there that comes from losing to billionaires in a game where you're over your head, but you're playing the long game. He thinks he's got a table full of suckers, but they're billionaires and he's not. And
they leave with his money, but he's got the edge, and he
also
hasn't
his
figured
blood.
out.
I saw actually the other day, I don't know if you guys could find this for me, but I saw on YouTube, I saw a picture or a video of Phil Hellmuth, and it said Hellmuth, I think, flips quads. And right next to him is a defeated Nick Wright. Like just playing in games he shouldn't be in, playing in games over his head, but he is a good gambler, except he wasn't when it came time to not let you guys down and then walk through the streets totally broken with no white in his eyes, because those eyes were black. And moments after he turned off his camera, his hands turned to paws like that. It seems obvious to me from that angle, but I'm afraid of him because Dominique Foxworth has proclaimed that the Chiefs are indeed back.
Yeah. He definitely ran through Central Park like James Spader and Wolf.
Did you pay him?
I did, yes.
Okay, and the car thing, is that still up in the air? We kind of closed that loop.
I'd like to still find the car, and I'd like to still figure out what to do with the car, but he needs the money, so I paid him.
Yeah. Quick question about James Spader and Wolf. Why was Jack Nicholson all feral, but James Spader could talk intellectually? He was like the smart gremlin when it came to werewolves.
I don't know if you guys saw Weapons or not, but the movie Weapons, when Nick Wright lost here with his cigarette, put out his cigarette, he then absolutely ran through the park with his arms spread wide and then turned into some sort of creature. Is there a third creature? Should I put on the poll werewolf, vampire, loser? Like what does he most look like walking through the streets at 2 a.m.? I would not get near that. If I were, I'd walk to the other side of the street if that were walking toward me with black eyes.
Yeah, real Rasputin vibe.
Do we have any other characters that we can go to that would be better? Because I think werewolf is better than vampire.
As I approach, like this dude's like a disavowed oligarch, werewolf, vampire.
For laughs.
So honestly, thrilled to be doing this with you because I have admired your work. You are just such a sculptor. You're an artist as a comedian. It's sort of the
Why? Thank you.
Well, the craft of it. It's such a hard way to make a living, Jay. I don't even understand how you make a living that way. I really don't. You have to be demented to choose. You know what? I'm going to laugh my way to the top. I'm going to take the expectation of funny, and that's how I'm going to get rich. Get out of here. It's crazy.
It seems sort of second nature to me. You know, I think it's one of those things. If it's what you like to do, it just comes. You know, I remember when I was in college, I'm dyslexic, so I would get out of any sort of written things, and I was taking speech therapy. And I remember the professor said, now at the end of the class, each student will have to give a 20-minute talk. And people went, 20 minutes? Oh my God, I get done. I thought, I'll do it right now. I'll talk for 20 minutes. Yeah, let's do this. You know? So it just struck me as funny.
But you could be funny in an instant? You knew that this was something?
No, not funny. I had to give a 20-minute talk. I mean, I didn't have a routine. I wasn't a comedian yet, but it just seemed natural. I mean, I always read that getting eaten by a shark and public speaking are the two things most people are afraid of, you know, that kind of stuff.
But not you, right? Like that, you didn't need attention, right? An audience just didn't scare you, right? Even though you were dyslexic, even though...
No, it didn't scare me. It didn't scare. You know what's interesting? A lot of people don't realize, you remember the Smothers Brothers, right?
Yes.
Well, Tommy Smothers was dyslexic, and they were folk singers, but Tommy would get the songs wrong. Michael, boat the row ashore. No, it's row the what? And they made it part of their act. And that's kind of how they became a sort of funny comedy singing team, you know?
How do you watch stand-up comics? Because I imagine you are watching not just to laugh, but to see where the comic's insecure, where the comic looks off stage or looks at his feet. I imagine.
No, not really. I watch it just to enjoy it. You know, I like comedy. I enjoy watching comedians. You have to be careful when you're a comedian because someone does a joke and then you realize you never want to be on stage and that subject comes up and your mind immediately goes to that person. So you have to be careful not to try and take somebody else's material. You know, that's sort of the biggest trick. A lot of times you don't want to watch comedians do routine on a particular subject because if you're developing something along the same line, oh, now you can't do yours because it's too close to theirs or whatever it might be. But no, I watch it. You know, it's like I like to make love, but I don't want to be a gynecologist. You know what I mean? So I enjoy it just being, you know, just being around it and being with comics. It's always fun.
You came up through the pipeline of where stand-up comedy was born, right? Like, I mean, you're almost at the roots, Jay. I mean, I don't know if it's Pryor and Carlin, but coming up through the LA comedy circuit, coming up through the comedians, when you were writing with David Letterman for JJ Walker, right? Like coming up through the Comedy Store, can you take me through the path of what you imagined your career was going to be and how it is that you arrived? And like, I can't even imagine getting from there to the Tonight Show.
Well, I'm a huge believer in low self-esteem. I think it's the key to success. If you don't think you're the smartest person in the room, you're more likely to listen and pay attention. I mean, when I was doing the Tonight Show, I constantly meet people who were geniuses. People say, you know, my client is a genius, but the people at the network were afraid he'd be too good. You know, I get that all the time. Or I get comedians who audition for the Tonight Show, and they didn't quite have them. They were close, and their agent would say, you're scared because you know if my client kills, he could take your job. No, I want your client to do well. It's just that, you know, talking about Reagan's trip to Pittsburgh 30 years later, it's not really timely anymore, okay? Can you try to update the material? Oh, and then people get furious. So there's all sorts of reasons why. But I think the key is I was always happy at whatever level I was at. I mean, I used to have a day job and then be a comedian at night, and I would bank one and spend the other. And then when the comedian money got to be pretty good, I quit the other job. And I thought, I'm making a living as a comedian, because it's probably a sad reflection on our society, but the worst comedian in the world still makes more than the best teacher, which seems hardly fair, but that's just the way it is. And so I always was able to.
No, you can't do that. You can't do that if he doesn't have big news. You can't do that if he's just doing First Take with Mark Cuban. You can't. No, that only happens with big news.
Apparently, you weren't listening an hour and 15 minutes in, because I heard some pretty good stuff there.
There was not news there. There was not.
He's still donating? Even after he hates the guy?
All right, we'll find out in a second. Episode. I'm finally reading some criticism of Pablo Torre. This is from Jay Mariotti's Substack. Any investigation of Steve Ballmer should center on one dude, Pablo Torre. And then the subheadline is, once again, Torre is in a mess as he asks us to find out on his podcast. The NBA vetted and approved Ballmer's deal with Aspiration, which suggests he's wrong in suggesting the owner was crooked. What is Jay Mariotti's problem with you?
This is hello, Chris. Thanks for listening to some of the episodes. I really appreciate that, sincerely. Is Jay Mariotti? I haven't read this yet. Is Jay Mariotti still blaming me for the cancellation of Around the Horn? Is
yes.
that okay? So is there that? Is my question number one. Number two, for anyone who's wondering who is Jay Mariotti, that's a fair question. You should Google Jay Mariotti sometime, and maybe just throw in the word stock, just as a matter of just general guidance. You might want to see what he had been up to at some point. The third thing, I love, so the Cuban thing is, I hate when Dan cuts to the core of me, because yes, me and Mark Cuban did some First Take, allegedly about my journalism. Really, it was arguing. I love it though, because I want people to give me arguments so I can try and defend the work, because frankly want to make sure I'm not missing anything. And I've been asking everybody, what are your criticisms? What are your arguments? And the Clippers, we've seen what those are. They don't have any. Media Day did not have those leaks. Typically, you get some good leaks from like media, sources of the team. Haven't really had those either. And Jay Mariotti's here now. And so I just feel like, I don't know, maybe the story's over now. Maybe when you get to the Mariotti line, the story's actually over because I don't think he knows what he's talking about.
He's blaming. He is blaming you. Tori has done this on my former program, Around the Horn, the second ESPN show he allowed to fade off the air. And it's time his editors at The Athletic tell him he's leading the majors in strikeouts.
So a couple of cleanups there. I did not allow High Noon to get canceled. I was canceled. I feel like it's okay for a cancellation to be involuntary.
The second ESPN show he allowed to fade off the air.
I want to apologize to Tony Reale for doing the thing in Titanic that Jack and Rose did. I let him go. I took the door we were floating on, and I let him go. I allowed Around the Horn to go away. What was the other thing?
Why is he blaming you? I don't. Why when you come on?
I don't know.
When you come on, what do you mean you don't know? When you come on, when you come on and say, "Is he blaming me again for Around the Horn?" And I didn't know he had been blaming you until reading this. Why is he blaming you for Around the Horn?
I'm just glad he said it. I might be the reason why.
I've never talked to Jay. I assume Jay is thrilled. One of my favorite things about Jay Mariotti's Twitter account, which I have just looked up here, is that he inserts manually a photo of himself like posing for everyone. And I don't even care to make fun of him for the engagement on his tweets because that's its own. I hate when people do that. To me, it's just sad. Ignore the numbers. Just look at the photos. He picked a good one for this one. He's like him in front of like a duck pond. I like that.
No, you say that's the good part of the bio. The best part of the bio to me is that he writes in ESPN ratings king.
Yes. Yes, that's right. You didn't know that, Dan?
I did not know that.
Did you know that, by the way, did you know? This is also news to the editors at The Athletic that they're my editors because they, of course, are not. They are, if anything, horrified to hear that. God bless our partners, but they are not editing these things. He just doesn't know. I mean, look, even if I can... Do we want to talk about how Jay Mariotti was the ratings king at ESPN, or do we want to talk about the thing that ESPN.com reported, which Jay Mariotti has misinterpreted into something that I am kind of like baffled by in a real way, but I can go either direction on that.
No, let's just talk about what you did this morning with Mark Cuban because he has entrenched himself on this in a way that leaves him, I think, largely alone. Where are his supporters, first of all, before you tell us what it is that you and Mark Cuban did on the latest episode of Pablo Torre Finds Out?
Where are Mark Cuban supporters?
Yeah, who else? Who else is publicly against you when you keep throwing facts at people that are vigorously reported? I thought all of these people scattered. I thought there were a lot of people, and it confused me at the beginning, and it suggested that people just hate the media because a whole lot of people sided with Ballmer at the beginning, and I was really confused by it. But since then, you've done so much reporting that I've seen no one but Mark Cuban still standing, and now Jay Mariotti.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's Clippers PR. It's Mark Cuban and Jay Mariotti to give you a sense of what's going on here. Oh, and in fairness, a lot of like people with Kawhi Leonard or James Harden avatars on Twitter. It's generally that's the dojo that I walk into ready to fight every day. And it's a bummer at this point. But I, in all sincerity, like the reason I wanted to have Cuban on the show was because I think it's really important, especially now, for journalists who do this sort of work to defend their work, to be able to defend their work. It's just key to how you make sure that people are hearing about your work. But then it's also, I think, only fair to the people that you're investigating or reporting on. And so in this case, like Mark Cuban coming into the studio, into our dojo, as he called it, a dungeon, which is fair, that's windowless and small, but full of journalism, and in this case, two people yelling at each other. I'm so grateful he did that because we got to have what I would say is the most generously proportioned conversation about a complicated topic in which he got to say everything and anything he wanted. And so that is what I wanted to make sure people heard, is that this is the best that people got. And so it was.
What did he say that you found interesting? What did he say that was different from what it is that he said before?
I asked him, I think, the fundamental question in all of this, which I will ask everybody, and I ask truly, NBA, Clippers, Ballmer, everybody, why was this deal never announced? And Mark Cuban provided a theory I had not heard before, which is simply that they had just announced a Red Sox deal at the end of March, and they didn't want to step on that deal. And then I guess they never got around to announcing the Kawhi Leonard deal.
They made plenty of other announcements, Pablo, but they just kept omitting Kawhi.
For some reason, it's hard for me to just objectively, of course, describe what he's arguing because I argued against it in the episode so lengthily, but it's just fucking insane. I'm sorry, it's just insane.
Pablo,
you signed Leo DiCaprio, Robert Downey Jr., Mike, you signed Drake, and you're like, look who we got. You spend more than 4 times all those A-listers combined on Kawhi, and you never announce it. And then you forget, apparently. You forget to announce it is basically what happens. And the business changes, and blah. It's just like you had months, and you never did it.
What's
so anyway,
in it for Mark to just refuse to give an inch here? I mean, we know how difficult it is in these trying times for any man to admit when they are wrong publicly. But why does he simply refuse to make? We're not talking about grand logic leaps here. Like, he is asking for you to acknowledge something that doesn't make any sense when you present him the evidence. But he just holds firm there, refusing to give an inch. What's at play here? He keeps trying to lead the audience on, saying, listen, this is good for the Mavs. I could just turn around and say, no, it's not good for the Mavs because there are a lot of people out there on the internet theorizing that allegedly this is happening all over the league and you don't want people poking around.
This is what it makes me wonder. The initial yawn on this from people is like, oh, I hope nobody comes snooping around here because there are all sorts of suspicious things that rich people do to compete when you try to curtail their richness.
I'm asking Pablo to do something that Mark apparently refuses to do, which is connect the dots here. Explain to me why Mark Cuban is so entrenched in his position.
Should I do this, though? I should.
Time to throw away all journalistic credibility and get reckless. Here is something we like to call reckless speculation.
You're good.
This is not journalism. This is not muckraking. This is Pablo being asked for his opinion.
So I think Mark Cuban is genuinely an internet-brained true poster. And I say that as an internet-brained true poster myself. I think he just is super, super online. He loves it. I mean, look, that's the generous interpretation, which is he just loves to argue about this. And even when I pointed out that he had written 17,000 plus words or whatever it was on Twitter about this, he then comes back and says a lot of that was ChatGPT. So I'm like, all right, so, okay, I mean, whatever. Mileage varies on how much work he's putting into the Twitter thing, but nonetheless, he's super into it. The other part, which I raise in the episode, which I find very interesting, is more in the, I would like Mark to connect these dots for me, which is that something that he never told me, that and I hate to step on sort of like the finale of the episode, but something that I establish is that I did not realize that Clippers co-owner Dennis Wong, who was Steve Ballmer's college classmate, his best friend has been described to me, the guy who put in money into Aspiration, despite all these disclosures, having never put money in before, in December of 2022, that guy who's been talked about ad nauseum. I didn't realize that Dennis Wong lives in Dallas now. And in the episode, we basically play a series of things, clips, that Mark Cuban is in which they are done at these institutions, the Dallas Museum of Art, for instance, the George W. Bush Presidential Center, both in Dallas. We reference the fact that he owns this pickleball team, the Dallas Flash. We do these sort of references because at the end, what I end up asking him is whether he knows that Dennis Wong lives in Dallas and whether he knows that Dennis Wong is also heavily involved with all of those organizations I just name-checked for you in the last minute. The Dallas Museum of Art, he's on the board. George W. Bush executive center, leadership thing. He's on the advisory council. He is an owner, Dennis Wong is, of a major league pickleball team that plays Mark's team, as well as the fact that they're on the board of governors together, have been for a half dozen years until Mark sold his majority stake in the team. So I asked him that, and Mark said he laughed. He laughed at all of it. And so, look, you could take that as he's genuinely ignorant of the other NBA owner who's not a Mavs owner, who's in his city that is involved with these same organizations. Or you could see something else. I am merely, Dan, asking a question.
Did you have like a timeline in your head as to like when there may be discipline in this? And then I guess like another question is there like a smoking gun that's still out there that you're trying to find? Because as someone who's not as invested, obviously, as you, it feels like the longer this goes, the less likely there will be consequences for all of this.
So that is actually something that came up in this ESPN.com article that Jay Mariotti turned into some, whatever the opposite of a smoking gun is. You guys can workshop that. What is the opposite of a smoking gun? I don't know.
Cool pistol. I don't know.
A cool.
No, that is
it's
just
like,
another gun.
A rock?
Right. It's a freezing bulletproof vest. The freezing bulletproof vest that Mark Cuban saw in that .com article, that Jay Mariotti saw in that .com article, is something that I think Mark Cuban is also rooting for, which is that this investigation, in that article, it was speculated for the first time I had seen, might not be done until after the 2026 NBA playoffs. And so you're right, Billy, like the whole thing here, the whole game, which I keep on trying to say, why is it weird that Adam Silver said that he had never heard of aspiration before? And then after I tweeted out the documentation for the $300 million contract, he then says to Front Office Sports, I misspoke, in a way that is completely incoherent as an excuse when you watch back the initial video. There was no wiggle room there for misspeaking, by the way. So then when this ESPN.com article comes out, the one thing that it establishes is that the NBA had, in fact, vetted the $300 million deal, not the Kawhi Leonard $28 million deal, but the larger Clippers thing. And my only real takeaway from just that bit of news, which I had kind of already reported because I found the documentation, but nonetheless, let's go with it. The only bit of news there is that, the NBA did, in fact, expressly approve this. So why did Adam say that he had never heard of it? Maybe, again, he genuinely was ignorant of it, or maybe, connecting dots here potentially, there was some other motive. And if the motive that everybody in the league is telling me is that they don't want to punish this to the degree that your reporting is suggesting, then there are lots of just, freezing bulletproof vests and smoke screens and whatever else to just get in the way of actual punishment. So is there a smoking gun that I am searching for? There are about a dozen that are out there. I just not ready to report those.
It just kind of feels like, from the outside, if they wanted this to be punished, they could have done so already. And they're just slow playing this. And if the investigation is not going to start until after the season's even complete, the hope is, I guess, that, the public forgets about it or just doesn't care as much. And then they can just kind of sweep it under the rug.
Well, so the investigation is underway, but the completion of it is what the article said may not be done until after the postseason is conveniently done. The other big part, which is and Adam said this, by the way, NBC, they had their big announcement about the NBA deal. Adam was asked about this. He said that there is, quote, no contemplation that the All-Star game would be moved because the All-Star game is, of course, at the Intuit Dome this coming February. And so there's no contemplation that they're going to move it. And so, look, you don't have to be Columbo to see why the NBA wouldn't want to derail the biggest party of the year, as well as the richest owner in the league, as well as the commissioner of the league. But what I'm simply telling you is that that's how towering the implications of this story are. All of those things are ostensibly on the table, unless the NBA, in their fake justice system, says actually none of it's even on the table.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Is a young person required to come up with a more modern detective reference than Columbo? The reason that I say that is because, and this is charming about my parents, the last 3 Saturdays they have texted me, "Are you watching Columbo?" because evidently there's some sort of marathon on Saturday nights. Do we not have a more modern detective than Columbo that we can be referencing there? Because I don't know, I'd go Sherlock Holmes. That's obviously not younger. What are the modern detectives that everyone understands here should be modern detectivery? And also, Pablo, do you consider yourself a muckraker? I'm not sure I know the definition even formally of muckraker. Billy, can you find me the definition of muckraker, please? Do you consider yourself, Pablo? Would that be a term of endearment?
I think I'm a mark raker, I guess. I'm a muck and a mark raker. Muck raker is a compliment. What? I thought that was pretty good. Just changing, 2 letters. I think that muck raker is a compliment. I think it started with Upton Sinclair. I think when he was investigating like the meat factories of whatever, like days of yore. Fact check that for me as well, please. Where muckraker started.
Upton Sinclair and Days of Yore. Which is the more highfalutin of the sounds than Upton Sinclair
the
and
Jungle?
Days
I'm referencing
of
Upton
Yore.
Sinclair's The Jungle, I believe. There's that. Yeah, man, I rake some muck. What of it?
What is the definition, Billy?
It's someone who searches out and publicly exposes real or apparent misconduct of a prominent individual or business.
There you go.
I mean, he's a muckraker.
He is referring to The Jungle from 1906.
Yes.
Upton Sinclair, Days of Yore.
Is Benoit Blanc a good modern detective?
Hey, you know what? Knives Out. I would watch. Knives Out is sort of franchise where I will watch a zillion sequels to that.
Is that
I'm all in.
Daniel Craig's character in that? Okay. So can we play the stat of the day music here? Because I've got an NFL stat of the day. Do we have an NFL stat of the day? I've got a different stat of the day. I don't want to do an NFL stat of the day, but I need an NFL stat of the day.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is here, start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is here, start of the day.
Stat of the Day is presented by Amazon Prime Video. Thursday Night Football is back. Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Coverage begins 7 p.m. Eastern, Thursday on Prime Video.
Dan, it turns out you may have been right about the historically bad Dolphins defense. According to @LordReeves on Twitter, the Dolphins have allowed opponents to score on a league-high 60% of their possessions this season. That is the highest rate for a team through 6 weeks of a season in the 2000s.
That is a good NFL stat. I have a good Pablo Torre Finds Out stat, which is that today's episode of Pablo Torre Finds Out is 1 minute longer than the 2021 Bob Odenkirk action film Nobody. Because Pablo takes a minute to get going, and now you got Mark Cuban there, and they're just arguing the entire time, and he's asking us, as he just did, to listen.
Monk? How about Monk?
I was going to say Monk. Monk is such a good one. I watched all the Monk episodes recently, Pablo. There was a Monk movie. I don't know if you saw it. Very sad.
Whoa, wait. There's a Monk. Wait, Tony Shalhoub, is he?
He's still with us. Is that
he's got a new show about bread.
Yeah, travel show on CNN.
He's got a bread show?
Yeah, where travels and has bread.
Yeah.
I'm in. Why is it sad, though? Why was the Monk movie sad?
I mean, do you want me to spoil anything for you? He's depressed. I mean, obviously, we know he lost his wife a long time ago. Now his, spoiler alert, possible ex-wife's daughter that she had at the end of the last season that we found out about. She's moved on and she's doing bigger and better things. He's no longer detecting, if you will. So he's dealing with some bad thoughts. He sees some windows he might want to jump out of. It's a whole depressing theme throughout the entire episode. But they bring him back for one final case. Also another good detective, Hercule Poirot.
I think that Pablo might have the best of the references when he's saying Columbo. We don't have none of those.
Those were all better references.
They're more modern references.
Ever heard of Death on the Nile?
They're more modern references, but do you think that they are more associated with detectivery than Columbo and Sherlock Holmes, which are the established standards in this realm?
I mean, Monk is the standard now for, I think,
All
an
right.
entire generation.
Let's put on the poll at Le Batard Show, most famous detective, and put the 4 or 5 of them up there that you want to put up there. In the interim, let's play a clip from Pablo Torre Finds Out, and this is just a snippet of, again, an episode longer than the 2021 action vehicle of Bob Odenkirk, Nobody. They argued for 90 minutes, and in it, that point you're making, Mike, about Jalen Brunson, about Dirk Nowitzki, about what other examples might there be that Pablo can sniff around. This comes up between them, and they continue, I assume, to argue.
So the question is, and this is truly like not my reporting. So, but the conspiracy out there, Reddit, our buddy Bill Simmons,
When Dirk had that documentary and Cuban's company bought it, and I would
is this documentary.
Uh-huh.
So the theory here is that Magnolia Pictures,
Uh-huh. My company, they own half of.
that's right, circumvented the cap by, overpaying to distribute a documentary about Dirk.
how he spent like Iron Man level money on the Dirk doc. Here's 48 million for your doc. Like, who knows what he spent? But
How much do you think we paid?
Well, what we did was we checked with the producers of the film, and to your credit, they poured cold water on the whole conspiracy. The head of the production company told us that your company did a $100,000 deal for U.S. distribution rights.
For how many years?
10. So yeah, I'm just I'm not here to like say gotcha. I'm just here to
Okay,
like
that's fine.
legitimately
That's
say
fine.
if
I
I find
appreciate you
evidence,
looking. You know what? And I thank you. I thank
Dude,
you for
I-
just
I-
dispelling all the nonsense.
I called
I
the
appreciate
producers,
it.
and so just to confirm, did the Mavericks circumvent the salary cap with Dirk Nowitzki in 2014?
No.
Very good. Do you think the Knicks may have circumvented the cap in taking Jalen Brunson from your Mavericks?
I don't know.
A different answer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I just think there was a lot of play there.
Yeah. Do you think the Knicks should be worried about an upcoming episode of Mark Cuban Finds Out?
You know, that's behind me. You know, more power to JB, more power to everything. Was I happy that they only got dinged for a second-round pick? No. No, it should have been far worse, but is what it is.
What do you make, Pablo, of the no and then the I don't know?
I'm just glad Mark Cuban loves talking. Genuinely. Like, what other part owner of an NBA team is just going to sit there and just riff on stuff? And even if you believe the riffs or don't, all I want is people to go on the record saying, here is what I am telling you happened, and then I can continue to report it. So we tried to do some reporting on the Dirk stuff, and to his credit, the production team said they were paid nothing close to what was alleged. So that's useful data. The Brunson thing, I think Mark is more animated about that than me. It sounds like.
Pablo, the one thing I couldn't understand from Cuban on his side of things here is it seems like he's incapable of making any sort of logical conclusions or even considering like the humanity side of this. Steve Ballmer, a rich guy, can make a miscalculation. For that matter, considering sources, right? Like every time you bring up the 7 sources who might confirm something, he just sort of dismisses that as, well, they're just people who have their own thing. Why do you think it is that Cuban is having such a hard time sort of processing just the human elements behind this story?
I found it frustrating too. I think there's, most generously, it's just a lot to keep up with. Maybe it's just hard to keep track of all of the sources and the documents. Less generously, I think it's because it's wildly inconvenient when you're saying, this is how I would have done it. And 7 people, and then over time, 9 people are saying, this is how it happened. And so, look, the whole point of journalism, not to be, on a high horse, is that, like, it's not good enough to hypothesize. You need to talk to people, primary sources, who in this case were interviewed by the federal government, who over time are telling you with increasing clarity, here are documents, fact check them, here are facts, check them, go to the Clippers, see what they push back on. No one corrects anything. The documents turn out to be true. The guys that they pointed to in terms of the actual fraud of the business get arrested and plead guilty to wire fraud. Like, it's just funny that a lot of what is being reverse engineered is from like the documentation around the Department of Justice's own investigation. Key people in that investigation, key sources, are my sources. And without saying more, because I need to protect their identity, I just look forward to the day when those sources may, in fact, feel comfortable enough to speak on the record with their names and their faces and their voices, because for the time being, the reason they're not has to do with the fact that we are not talking about just like, in truth, like fun, random sports debate. We're talking about one of the richest men, 10 richest men in the world, being at the center of their accusations. So that's why they're not doing it. Plus the fact that there's an ongoing series of federal probes. Like, anyway, that's what I think. I also believe, though, that if you don't believe the sources, that's okay. Believe the documents. And apparently mileage varies on that, too.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Will you listen to a podcast that promises, quote, an ongoing series of federal probes, end quote? Pablo Torre Finds Out is the podcast. It is excellent, and he continues to chase this story because, as Jay Mariotti says, I tell him to chase people. Thank you for chasing people, Pablo. Continue to chase people.
Thank you for being my boss, and thank you for the money. And we have another investigation, a different investigation coming Thursday that I think is going to make people mad. But
is it Jay Mariotti dyes his hair? Because I have concluded mine.
See you later, Pablo. Thank you.
And
appreciate
eyebrows.
It. We will get to Tony here in a segment. We are not going to do that here now because there's a limited amount of time here, and I wanted to talk about a couple of things from yesterday. Not the two plays that I wanted to talk about from the football game, because that Bijan Robinson run doesn't make any physical sense that he would be able to break that last tackle while staying in bounds. His lower body must be stronger than anyone's in the leagues because that didn't make physics sense to me, that he did not go out of bounds given that there was a defender with an angle on him and the sideline there. And also that Drake London play at the end of the first half was just magic. It was just great. But before I get to either of those plays from last night's action, I do want to talk about the baseball. And I want to talk about the baseball, not Blake Snell division, even though Blake Snell, what he's been doing over the last 6 starts is something I have not seen from a pitcher before. Not Oral Hershiser, not anybody over the last 6 starts.
It's a soft spot, for former Rays, I think.
I do have a soft spot for former Rays, but also Blake Snell is the best left-hander I've seen since Clayton Kershaw, who's not named Scooble. So the thing that I wanted to talk about, though, from the Milwaukee game and what it takes to try to beat Blake Snell is a double play that has never happened in baseball and is funny, and I'm going to try and explain to the audio audience because I heard Mike trying to come in here today and just understand what the play was based on verbal description, because verbal description makes it hard to describe what is a play that has no precedent in the history of American baseball, which has more history than any sport we have. I'm going to try and explain this in just audio. Billy's going to delight in this play because he's already wanting to make a mess of my explanation.
No.
I said, Billy, I see you. Billy, I see you lean up. And
he doesn't need to do anything to do that.
Billy, I've seen you lean in your chair.
There's ways of describing it with words, and there's ways it's described on the scorecard. And it could have played out differently on a scorecard to show how unique of a play it was. The fact that it ends up being on the scorecard numerically the way it's represented, I'm positive that there have been multiple instances where a game has been scored a double play with those identical numbers.
Go ahead.
What do you mean?
Go ahead and explain what it is that you're...
Numerically?
Yes.
Well, numerically, you would go the person who receives the ball to the person who throws the ball to the person who ends the play.
I haven't heard any numbers yet from you. I've just heard you explain the play.
Okay, it would go up probably 8-6-2 or 8-5-2, depending on who received it. Who got it?
8-6-2 and then unassisted.
8-6-2, then the unassisted. Now, had it gone 8-6-2-5, I'm sure that is not a common double play because of the fact that at the end of the play, spoiler alert, the catcher decided to run down and touch third base.
Well, that's what makes it more
So it
rare.
would make it seem like it could have just been a typical pop fly that was then thrown, cut off, and then there was a second out made at home plate on a player tagging, which is not uncommon.
You want to try and explain this to the audience with words?
I just did with
instead
numbers.
Of numbers.
Well, I'm just the words, and that's why I'm saying the numbers don't do it justice.
The numbers never lie.
I don't know the numbers. I know you're 6'4",
1.
That's all I know.
Pitcher. 2. Catcher. 3. First base. Stop me when you want me to stop.
I want you to stop. It's like astrology. I'm just never going to take it in.
You don't ever do any scorekeeping? You've never done baseball scorekeeping?
No, I'm a grown man who has sex.
You never got the shirt that says 4 + 6 + 3 = 2?
So you don't know, if I ask you the shortstop, what is the shortstop numerically? You don't know the number?
I assume that's a 6 because there's a 6'4",
Yes, and
so the shortstop's 6, second baseman's the 4, and the 3 is the first base. That's all I got.
Okay, so the third baseman, you want to try the third baseman?
Nope.
Okay.
It's a 5.
There's one number
5,
in between.
yeah.
So this is the play. The bases are loaded, and a shot is hit towards center field. And you've heard me say that I can't believe the number of outfielders in baseball who are regularly stealing home runs. This is something that I'm watching happen in baseball more than I've ever seen it happen. It happens every week. It's a really weird thing to watch when it used to be an incredibly special play. But Sal Frelick, is headed toward the wall. And as he jumps up at the wall, which is very far from first, second, third base, very far from home plate, it's going to be very hard if you're a base runner to see what's happened here, because he jumps up at the wall, over the wall, the ball hits his glove, and it looks, unless you're close to it, it looks like he bobbles it and then catches it after it's hit his glove. But as he's out there, it also hits the wall. So now it is no longer able to be caught, because once it hits the wall, it is now not capable of being an out in his glove.
Correct.
It's got to be an out on one of the bases. But you can't see that from first, second, or third base. So what all these runners have to do is go back to the bag and tag up and then go, so they eliminate all the force outs. But they don't know this. They think that this person may have caught the ball on the bobble. They're confused, and now the Dodger base runners in a 0-0 game, in a game where the Brewers know they're not scoring on Blake Snell. There will be no scoring on Blake Snell in this game. They're doing everything they can to stop the Dodgers from scoring a run, and they somehow do it because the base runners, professional base runners, very good. The Dodgers are very good at the specifics of baseball. They don't know what to do with. I can't see what just happened out there, and I didn't see, and I don't see that this is a live ball because the ball has hit the wall. It looks like Frelick has caught the ball.
That's the part that's crazy, is all of the runners stay still for just a moment. And for him to not just keep the concentration to catch this ball, but to keep the concentration to catch the ball off of the wall, when you can later see the confusion on his own face about what's happened, because I'm not sure he even realized that the ball hit off of the wall when he caught it. He's just trying to throw it in as fast as he can to the cutoff man. A perfect throw, which then allows that cutoff man to make a perfect throw home to the catcher to get what is not a play that needs to be tagged, but a force out at home.
That's crazy.
That is this close.
A force out at home when that ball was at the wall doesn't make any sense.
No, you got to treat that as a sac fly if you're a base runner. And in all essence, you need to go back to the base, wait until at least the second attempt to catch that ball so you can tag up and score. So at the very least, it'll probably be a force play a second if you went out.
Roy was walking us through what he would have done differently this morning and how none of that should have happened.
Yeah, it's bad base running.
Agreed. That is not up for dispute. But I understand why the base running was bad, at least in part because of the confusion at the wall. But the idea that they then get another out at third base, that they got the outs at home and at third when the ball was going to be a home run. Like, the first thing Frelick did is that would have been a home run if he had not had his glove above the wall. Now he brings it back. It hits the wall. And what should have been a home run, how frustrated are you if you're this hitter? What should have been a playoff home run is forever a double play. Like that.
And by the way, a grounded into a double play, technically.
No, I have a bone to pick with that situation. That is not a grounded into double play.
That's
I see
how
that
it's
people
scored.
scored it that way. You cannot score grounded into double play on a ball that's hit 400 feet in the air.
It would be
You
a
did not
fielder's choice,
ground
wouldn't it?
into a double play. No, it's not a fielder's choice because it ended up being a double play. No one got safe at first.
Right.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Is there any way possible to ground into a double play on a ball you've hit 400 feet over the fence? Because there's not. And yet I just saw it.
It happened.
No, there's
in front
not.
of your own eyes.
No, there's not a way. No, there is not a way to ground into a double play on a ball hit 400 feet over the fence.
And ground into a double play in which the catcher runs to third base about 20 seconds after the ball was hit in the air.
The next thing you're going to tell me is that Cam Ward threw a game-winning interception for a touchdown.